I recognize the member from Oshawa.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and I'm glad to stand in this House as the official opposition critic for infrastructure and transportation, and to speak to Bill 56, which is the so-called Building a More Competitive Economy Act. And the basis of my debate today is going to be on the changes in Schedule 5, changes to the Highway Traffic Act. But the bill before us is an omnibus bill that has 11 different schedules. It makes changes to all sorts of acts. My colleagues have spoken about some of them: the Clean Water Act, the Ontario Heritage Act, Endangered Species Act, many regulated health professionals, and other acts. But as I said, it also makes changes to the Highway Traffic Act. So for the folks who have been quite interested in the speed camera conversation, this is that conversation. This is the bill that attacks safety cameras in our community and bans the use of automated speed enforcement. So, Speaker, here's what is happening in Schedule 5 as shared with us in the bill. Automated speed enforcement systems are currently authorized under the Highway Traffic Act and its regulations. These systems operate as municipal programs and rely on a legislative framework for owner liability for speeding offences, allowing tickets to be issued to vehicle owners rather than drivers. So these are the speed cameras that, when folks get the ticket, it goes to the owner of the vehicle, not necessarily the driver. This bill, this schedule, repeals that framework. It would end the use of automated speed enforcement systems across Ontario. Owner liability for speeding offences would also end. Municipalities would no longer be able to operate automated speed enforcement programs, and speed enforcement would revert to traditional methods, with police officers issuing charges to drivers. It repeals the repeal results in the early termination of a contract between a municipality and a vendor or supplier of automated speed enforcement equipment, and this allows for municipal liability is limited, it says. It also grants the minister the opportunity to install signs if the municipality doesn't do it fast enough, but we can get into that. So in this schedule of the bill, it gives the minister the power to order municipalities to install signs in school zones. So school zones ought to already have signs, but and I would say that a sign is not an appropriate substitute for speed enforcement. It can be an additional tool. I was discussing it with my colleague earlier, and they've got signs in their riding, and it makes a difference. But why would we be removing a useful tool when we're talking about safety, and specifically in school zones and community safety areas, about the safety of children? So, government talks about speed bumps, roundabouts, flashing lights. All of these things are good ideas, but in addition to, not instead of. Safer is better. So how did we get here? Well, this government brought in automated speed enforcement. I remember that back in 2019. This government gave municipalities the ability to make decisions for themselves about whether or not to utilize this tool, automated speed enforcement, in their jurisdictions, in their municipalities. And I'll tell you that they heard a lot at any municipal council that went ahead with this, or regional council, heard from constituents, and they continue to. And they've been refining and fine-tuning and always improving, because if they don't, they're going to hear about it from their constituents. But here we have the premier of this fine province reaching again into municipalities because he is the boss of them, it would seem. And this is another most recent example of provincial overreach. Because even though the premier brought it in, now the premier is taking it out. Why? I don't know. Ostensibly as a favour. I'm not sure who has asked. The premier calls him a cash grab, which is nonsense, and we'll hear more about that. Speaker, I've been trying to figure out who this benefits. So it would seem that at least 20 government ministers have gotten significant tickets from speed cameras. So I'm going to guess that they put their hands up that they would like to not have that happen again. But from a Global News article entitled, "Won't Happen Again, Minister Pledges No More Speeding, Ontario Cabinet Vehicles." Ontario's Transportation Minister has promised vehicles assigned to Doug Ford's cabinet ministers won't be caught speeding again after municipal cameras slapped them with more than $3,300 in fines. Went on to say vehicles registered to cabinet ministers were snapped speeding by cameras 23 times over the past 3 years, including one travelling at 70 kilometres in a 40. Documents obtained by Global News do not disclose which ministers the vehicles were assigned to. So interesting, the Minister of Transportation has said it won't happen again. Yes, that's right, it won't happen again. You know why? Because they're ripping out the cameras that caught him. So maybe that's part of the reason. Speaker, I want to talk about how responsible municipalities have been implementing. Despite the way the Premier has been making this sound, and calling it a cash grab, here's one example. You can look at any of the 37 municipalities have online information about it. This is from the region of Durham. I live there. Automated speed enforcement is a modern tool used to help enforce speed limits in school zones and community safety zones, places where kids tend to walk, run, bike, and play. They list all of the locations where permanent automated speed enforcement cameras are now. So they have all of the locations. They have listed the intersections where the mobile automated speed enforcement cameras are while they're getting that feedback and data before they become permanent. It's all right there. This supports Durham's Vision Zero. All of us will be meeting with Good Roads. We know that Vision Zero, the vision is to have 0 fatalities, safe roads. This is part of that. But they are very accountable and explain in the frequently asked questions on this website for the region. It is very clear that it explains what it is. It's an automated system, uses a camera and speed measurement device to enforce speed limits, help make roads safer for all users. They break it down. There are no questions. There's nobody hiding in the bushes, with a speed camera set up. Like this is not gotcha enforcement. This is, if you speed, there's a consequence. It's not a tax, it's a fine for breaking the law. So let's continue to have safe roads and accountable roads. The retired chiefs of police, there's a letter here that they wrote in a letter to the Premier and his ministers. Retired chiefs of police from Peel, Halton, Niagara, Ottawa and beyond argued that the cameras are, quote, highly effective at changing dangerous driving behaviours and reducing collisions and serious injuries at problem locations, end quote. They have said, quote, the results are clear. When drivers know that automated speed enforcement cameras are in place, they slow down. This means fewer tickets, lower costs, and safer roads for everyone. And they go on to say, quote, automated speed cameras reduce speeding, injury, and death, allowing police to divert resources to focus on criminal activities plaguing Ontario communities, such as auto theft and intimate partner violence, end quote. Former police executives have said that there are lots of priorities for police to focus on, and having them sit outside of a school zone in the, as the government called it, traditional method, is that best use of police resources. I'll tell you that the municipalities are very concerned about what will become a significant increase to policing costs in order to cover those safety zones. We all know that police do a remarkable job in our communities, and all of us have a list of things that are going wrong in our communities, and they have said here that it frees them up to do other things, something to consider. But, Speaker, this has been a really interesting issue for all of us in our inboxes. I'm hearing from all sorts of folks about this issue. And this isn't just a click and add your name lobby email. This is people sitting down, taking the time out of their day, and writing thoughtful letters on this issue. Like many, many, many. And I know the government members are getting them too. So I would like to share the voices from my community and from some neighbouring communities about the importance of having safe roads and why this ban on speed cameras is a bad idea. Carol from Oshawa wrote, "My mother and I would like to ask you to oppose the law Premier Ford is proposing to eliminate speed cameras across the province. We live near Durham College and Ontario Tech University and see cars exceeding the speed limits every day on Taunton Road and Simcoe Street. Since the Simcoe Street speed cameras were installed, speeding on Simcoe Street North near those campuses has dropped noticeably. Please don't let Premier Ford take away this system that is protecting students and others in Oshawa every day." End quote. Thank you, Carol. Elizabeth writes, Elizabeth actually writes, "I'm writing to urge you and the provincial government to protect the lives of children and pedestrians by reversing the ban on speed cameras. Police chiefs and hospitals agree that speed cameras save lives. Speed cameras reduce speeding, decrease collisions, make our streets safer. If drivers don't break the law, they don't get fined. Why should the government allow reckless drivers to put children at risk on their way to school?" Great question, Elizabeth. Carolyn writes, "I'm writing to you to express my objection to the proposed legislation calling for a ban of the use of municipal speed cameras. The use of automated speed cameras helps keep pedestrians, cyclists and children safe across Ontario. I am asking you to stop the ban of the use of municipal speed cameras and ensure that speed cameras remain available as a critical safety measure to protect Ontario communities." Good point, Carolyn. Vidahi writes to me and says, "I have worked for a speed camera vendor for more than 1 year now and know for a fact that the programs are effective at reducing speeding and changing driver behaviour. I am proud to be part of the program that created safer streets in the community where I live. Most other residents agree that the cameras are a good thing." Goes on to say, "I think it would be a mistake to ban the use of speed cameras. We should instead improve the programs." Goes on to say, "One improvement to the program would be minimum speed enforcement thresholds. The company I work for is known for implementing fair programs and recommends against ticketing anything under 11 kilometers per hour over the speed limit." Okay, thoughtful input. Thank you. Josh. Now, Josh is actually from Ottawa Centre, but Josh has written, "Speed cameras are not just enforcement tools. They are proven traffic calming measures that save lives. Numerous studies have shown that ASC cameras significantly reduce speeding, especially in school zones and residential areas. These reductions translate directly into safer streets for pedestrians, cyclists and drivers alike. Importantly, the fines collected from speed cameras are reinvested into traffic safety initiatives. That ensures that those who violate the law contribute to the cost of making our streets safer, rather than placing the financial burden on law-abiding taxpayers." Josh goes on to say, "If signage were truly effective on its own, posted speed limits would already be sufficient. The reality is that many drivers ignore signs unless there is a meaningful consequence, which ASC cameras provide." Thank you, Josh. Ronald wrote to me and said, "I write to express my concern and disappointment that there is even a consideration to legislating the removal of traffic cameras, and to do so on several grounds. First, the decision should rightly be that of the local municipalities, not of the provincial government." Fair point, Ronald. Ronald says, "Second, all research indicates that they are effective in reducing speeds. Is that not what we want?" He goes on to say, "The only individuals that these cameras impact negatively are those who speed. In other words, those who break the law. Everyone who operates a motor vehicle should be able to read signs and adjust their speed accordingly. To fail to do so, it is to tacitly accept whatever consequence there might be, including incurring a fine. This is not a cash grab on the part of the municipality. It is a cash handout on the part of the driver." Yeah, good point. Thanks, Ronald. And the last thing he says that I'll add is, "The only ones opposed to the cameras seem to be those who wish to speed." That should tell us something. Yes, Ronald, it should. Edward wrote to me from his iPhone, one line, and I can only imagine Ronald might have been listening to this on the news or saw a headline, but just took a moment on his phone to send one line: "I support the use of speed cameras in general, and particularly in school zones." Thanks, Edward. By the way, these aren't people I know. This is just people who have realized this is not the right course of action for this government, and they are just motivated to share. Mary says, why would anyone object to a proven way to improve road safety? If you don't speed, you don't pay. Taxpayers aren't losing anything, but they may have safer roads for their children. Let's give demerit points instead of fines if the objection is the cost of a fine. Well, there's one idea. But this government isn't willing to consider ideas. Here's another one from Anna. Anna says, as a longtime resident of Oshawa, I would like to express my support for the municipal speed camera programs. It is without a doubt that speed cameras placed around the Durham region have made our roads safer and provide an otherwise missing incentive for speeding drivers to slow down, especially in community safety zones. I was shocked to hear Premier Ford's announcement today regarding municipal speed camera programs and the misleading ways in which he framed the functionality and efficacy of these programs. They enable places like Oshawa to collect lawful fines which are not otherwise possible to collect due to the varied demands placed on our policing services. It is ridiculous, in my opinion, that any elected official at any level of governance would oppose the enforcement of clearly understood laws which are long-standing and necessary for public safety. The claims made by Premier Ford, namely that the program is unsalvageable and ineffective, are specious at best. To argue that drivers should not be fined for speeding because they aren't going fast enough would be laughable if it were not such a serious breach of his responsibility to maintain public safety. Thank you, Anna. And James wrote to me from Scarborough, and James has said, I work in the transit and transportation industry. I'm a motorist who drives very large vehicles, normal cars, motorcycles, and I also enjoy my bicycle. I live near several schools that are close to busy roads that seem to be used as raceways at times. Daily, I see drivers speeding, using electronics, passing where it's not permitted, running red lights and stop signs, all without repercussions. I feel that these cameras play a role as one of the tools that can be used to deter excessive speeding. While having a police officer constantly monitoring the roads would be ideal, it's something that just doesn't seem feasible in the current environment. Other alternatives to limit speed, such as speed bumps and other traffic calming measures, cost more to implement, create slowdowns for emergency vehicles, cause problems for snow removal, and simply don't work for multi-lane situations. The suggestions that large signs or lights will have the same effect as the cameras is laughable. James has so much good stuff to say. Speaker, we all received an open letter from John Creelman, who's the Mayor of Mono. He has been a very vocal safety advocate for years. I've appreciated his thoughtful comments on a number of issues relating to transportation. But his open letter is based on, he said, the following thoughts are informed by 34 years in public life, 15 years of which was as a Justice of the Peace, serving 6 years of those as a Regional Senior Justice of the Peace. He lays out pages and pages of very thoughtful input. But I'm going to just pick a couple. Do not scrap a technology that works. It slows traffic down. Studies worldwide are conclusive about this. Over 20% of roadway fatalities can be attributed to speeding. The faster vehicles travel, the more likely there will be serious injuries or death. Think about the implications of cancelling contracts between ASC providers and municipalities entered into in good faith. Speaker, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario is opposed. And those are folks that the Premier normally has good conversations with. The ministers generally have good relationships with. But they have said, AMO is disappointed the Premier is taking steps to ban municipal ASE. There is strong evidence showing that ASE cameras work, people slow down, making our roads safer and protecting all of us, especially kids. ASE also frees up police to focus on high-priority crime, which is what Ontarians want. Speeders, not taxpayers, pay the cost. If there's an issue of fairness or on how the cameras are used, municipalities with AMO can work together with the province to address it. We are also concerned about continued provincial overreach. This should be a local decision. Municipalities are an accountable elected order of government. Hear, hear. The Joint School Board and Trustee Association statement on automated speed enforcement cameras in school safety zones. They have said, as leaders representing Ontario's 4 publicly funded school board associations, we are united in our concern about the province's proposal to eliminate automated speed enforcement cameras in school safety zones. We share the concerns raised by municipal councils, community leaders, public health experts, and law enforcement organizations about the potential loss of this important safety tool. Slowing drivers down around schools reduces the risk of tragedy and keeps students and their families safer. We call on the provincial government to improve and refine ASE, not eliminate it. Our children deserve the strongest protections we can provide. Parents across the province are rallying, calling this a horrible piece of legislation. This is some strange vendetta that the Premier has against speed cameras. I don't know whether it is because so many ministers got tickets. I don't know whether it's because a friend doesn't like them. It is a wrong-headed move that makes our roads more unsafe.
The member from Orleans.
Very much, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the debate from my friends over here. I sat on Ottawa City Council right as this government was creating the rules for automated speed enforcement, and I chaired the committee that passed our Vision Zero plan and had automated speed enforcement in community safety zones and school zones as an important part of that plan. And so this is an issue that I care a lot about. And as the member quite rightly pointed out, it was this government that defined where automated speed enforcement can go, and it can go in community safety zones. What they didn't do is tell municipalities what a community safety zone should be. They gave municipalities carte blanche to designate any road they want as a community safety zone, and that is what has created many of the problems that we're facing today. So my question to my friend is that given that the rules around these devices were created by this government, and now they're going to undo the work that they did, in Orleans, en français, we call that a flip-a-flop, and I'm wondering if there is a word that comes to mind for you when this kind of back and forth happens.
So I recognize the member from Oshawa.
Thank you very much. And if en français c'est flip-a-flop, en anglais c'est flip-flop. So I appreciate you're taking us back in time. So in 2019, I remember, because I was serving here, hearing from community members concerned about how this would happen, and I have been very impressed with the regional municipality of Durham that has laid it out over time, that has pulled the data in without issuing tickets to figure out how best to curb the bad behaviour, the speeding, and how to make our roads safer. And one of the things from their website, they say all ASE devices are signed ahead of the device to promote transparency. The goal of this program is to slow drivers down through our most vulnerable areas, namely school zones, community safety zones, and improve safety. All of our municipalities are hearing from community members to fine-tune this. There is room for improvement. We should not be abolishing something that works.